Hey everybody, it's Jake here with the DIA guys again. So this video right here is going to be a continuation of my previous video where I installed a ceiling fan box. So that was the preparation work for this video, which is actually installation of the ceiling fan. So I got a ceiling fan here. It's a ceiling hugger or low profile ceiling fan because there's only 8-foot ceilings here in this room. So you want to make sure that the ceiling fan is sufficiently high so taller folks don't hit their heads on or anything like that. So this video is going to hit the highlights of installing that ceiling fan. Maybe there's some things in here that are helpful for you if you choose to do an installation like this, and just kind of show you how the process that I went along to install it. So, but like with anything else, you want to make sure that you read the directions, understand the directions, and follow the directions when you install the fan. Make sure that all your bolts are tight, your electrical connections, make sure that they're tight and they follow any of your local electrical codes as well. So all those things are real important to make sure your fan's installed safely. So again, this is going to be just a video to go over some of the things that I did and just to follow the process of installing the fan. So let me show you what we got installed today. All right, so this is the fan we're installing here. This happens to be a Hunter Oakhurst ceiling hugger or a low profile fan, so that basically there's no down rod and the fan mounts directly to the ceiling. So this is going to give me some more clearance in this room that only has an 8-foot ceiling. Got one of these fans installed already. It's a pretty good fan, and I think we'll be pretty satisfied with it as well. So let's open up the box. Actually, I got the box open. Let's just go through the box and look at the parts of what we got to work with. So when you open the box, you'll see the owner's manuals to begin with. Here they are here, or the instruction manuals, owner's manuals. Set those to the side. And you got the main fan bracket. You got the light fixture. You got the arms that actually hold the fan blades up to the motor itself. This is all your hardware, your grommets for your arms, plus your hardware to install everything. And it actually comes with light bulbs as well. So that's kind of a nice thing, the LED. And then if we take this off, below here, we've got the other light bulbs. These are the globes for the light fixture. Some other trim bracketry to go up to the fan. And then here's the fan housing that goes up to the ceiling and the actual fan motor. And then over here on the side of the fan blades. Now these fan blades have two colors. So this is a black side, or I guess it's painted black. It's not stained. Pretty dark, and this is kind of a light wood finish color. So I'm going to go with this wood finish showing. Obviously you can do the black finish if you want to, or if you want your fan that you get, it won't be necessarily just like this. We'll probably have the exact same option of two different colors for your fan blades. So let's go ahead and get the hardware out and read the instructions and get the fan bracket mounted to the box so we can start the installation. So here in the box we've got the table of contents and of the instruction manual. So as you can see, this is the process to go through. It's laid out very succinctly here to install the fan. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your installation is good. The way where you're going to install it is good. So here I'm installing it in a place where a fan was previously, so I know it'll work. But if you're installing it in a new location, make sure you've got sufficient clearances here. And then if you saw my previous video, you want to make sure that you've got a box that's fan rated. If you're not sure if it's a light fixture box, you want to go ahead and replace that box and get you a fan rated box in there, because again, you want to make sure that this fan is not going to come out of the ceiling while it's being used for safety purposes. I'm just saying you might need somebody to help you. Now the wiring is going to depend upon your local codes, so you want to make sure that you wire it according to those local codes. Then some tools you need. Obviously, you need a ladder, some screwdrivers, and the drill and the drill bit, I believe, are only necessary if you're actually installing it in the mounting bracket itself. If you're installing the mounting bracket into wood. Now in our case, in our previous video, we installed that metal fan box, so we're going to use that metal fan box as our base for our installation. So the first thing we've got to do is to, obviously it says to turn the power off, so you definitely want to do that. If you have to work on anything electrical, you want to make sure that you've turned the power off and you've isolated it and you're sure the power's off. That's very important. So well, first thing we're going to do is install our bracket. Like I said, the bracket, there's two ways you can install it. You can install it using these screws through wood, if you have the wood framing behind the ceiling. If not, you're going to install it in the box, and that's the method that I'm going to go with here. So I'm going to get this bracket installed up in the box and pull the wiring through as it shows here, so that you can access that wiring and do your wiring later. Now, if you saw my previous video, the box that we installed comes with some really good screws. So you want to make sure that you utilize those screws and tighten this bracket up tight to the ceiling so it doesn't move. There's some rubber bumpers on here. Make sure these rubber bumpers are in place and they're not missing, because those will be really important to make sure you have some vibration isolation in the ceiling. Now, one thing we did with our box previously was we made sure it was level in all directions. So that's going to make sure that this bracket is in turn level, because the ceiling should be level as well, and give us a good platform to work off of when we install the fan again, so there's less chance of it wobbling when it's installed. So let's go ahead and get this bracket installed. Okay, so here's the ceiling, the bracket installed. I had 2 of these machine screws that we installed here and here into the box to give us a stable foundation. Now, in addition to this, what I also did was took the level, and I took this level off of a square, but check it, in both directions, this direction, and also check it in this direction, and make sure that it's level. This one's kind of favoring one side. The bracket itself is, not quite flat too, but just make sure it's as level as you can get it. You might have to put maybe some more padding up here or something like that, but to get it level. But you want to make sure that this bracket is tight. So grab a hold of it and move it. And you want to make sure that it's not going to come out of the ceiling. That's very important to give you a stable foundation to install the rest of your ceiling fan. One other thing I did too is my grounding wire. I actually wrapped it up inside the box around the grounding screw, and then brought it down here so we can make all our grounding connections when we make our electrical connections. So again, that just makes sure that we've got, it'll be grounded. It's grounded here through the frame, the bracket, and there's paint there which could damage, mess up your connection. So it should be grounded to the box. But just to make sure, I took and grounded this copper wire, the ground wire, directly to the box, and then brought it down through this hole. So we've got a couple different grounding points. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on with the installation. Okay, the next step in the process, it says, is to install these grommets in the ceiling fan blades. I'm not going to show that because this is very simple. Just like instructions show, just push it right through the hole, and that's done. All right, the next thing you want to do is install your fan motor, just like it shows here. So the fan motor, the bracket has an opening in the side, and I'll show that here in just a second. Basically, just slide the fan motor inside the bracket. Make sure that you pull your wires out so you can get to them to make your wiring connections. Okay, and then there's a locking screw that you're going to need to install per the directions. And then this shows that there's a Star hardware bag that has that screw. So we're going to do that. We're going to install the fan, make sure our electrical wires are out so we can access them to do our connections. Then we're going to secure the fan motor in place using this locking screw. And then, hey, thumbs up, we'll be done with this step. So I'm going to go ahead and do this right now and bring you back when it's done and show you the highlights. All right, so here's the fan motor installed. As you can see, the bracket has this slot in here, and you just slide the motor in there and let it fall. It'll fall down in there. There's kind of this rubber isolator right here on the fan motor itself, mounted the fan motor, and you can see it'll fit in this bracket for this particular fan. Your fan might be a little bit different, but this is again, it's a Hunter Oakhurst fan that I'm installing. These wires for our electrical connections were kind of tied together. I pulled them loose and then twisted the ends so they're good and tight. So when we put our wire nuts on there, we'll get a good connection. And then our electrical connectors, end up bringing them down and over through the side. I had them down through the middle originally, but that wasn't workable, obviously, with where the fan was going to be seated. So I had to pull them through the side, and that's what I did here so we can make our electrical connections. Now, the screws, the locking screws, there's one right here, and there's a corresponding screw on the diagonally opposite side, right here where my finger is. And basically the screw prevents the fan motor from coming up. You see I can't pull it up, and because I can't pull it up, then it won't come out, so it kind of helps to lock the screw in place. So just get these screws snugged and make sure the fan motor will stay in place, and the way the fan obviously keeps it down. All right, so let's go back to the instructions. Let's look at the next step. All right, so the next step in the process is to do the wiring. Now you're going to have to consult your individual situation with your wiring and figure out what works for you. And also just make sure that whenever you do your wiring and do your electrical connections, that they're good and tight. Your wire nuts, once you've made the connections, I would try to pull the wires out of the wire nuts, just to make sure that they're snug. Obviously if they don't pull out, they're snug and tight, you got a good connection. But you're going to have to make sure that you're looking at your particular situation and you have it wired properly. So in my situation, I have a single switch here. So just the single switch will just allow you to provide power to both the light fixture and to the fan, and then you control the operation of each independently with the chains on the fan. So that's what I'm going to wire up here. This right here is a situation where you have two switches, one for the fan and one for the light. And then I believe this one over here is where you don't have a switch at all, and you've just got power going directly to the fan, and you just control it with the switch on the fan, or the pull chains on the fan. Okay, so just consult your wiring, look at what you have, figure out which is the right way, and the wiring, the way it shows here is pretty straightforward for what to do in terms of connection. So just follow all these these connections according to what it says to do, and install your wires using wire nuts. And again, make sure that your wiring is good and tight. Again, this is another safety concern. Sometimes it's a problem installing stranded to solid copper wire. So they provide you with wire nuts, and you want to use those wire nuts. And we twisted our stranded wire tight before we go to install them in the wire nuts. But again, get those wire nuts installed, check to make sure you got a good connection, and then your wiring is done. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll bring you back and I'll kind of show you what I did for my wiring. Okay, so here's the wiring after it's been completed, and you can see I've got all the wires neatly tucked up inside this little space right here. So you want to do that to make sure it's clear of the motor, because this part is going to be the part that's going to spin. So you're going to make sure all that's clear. One thing that I found with my installation is that when I had to put my two stranded wires together and connect it to my black wire coming from the house, the orange wire nuts they give you, they were not large enough for me to be able to get all the wires in there and adequately tighten everything. So what I ended up having to do was get some larger size wire nuts for the places where I had multiple stranded wires going into a single solid wire. And again, just make sure that whenever you put your wire nuts together, you check them, you test them, put the wires together, twist them together, and then put the wire nut on there, and then pull each wire and make sure it's good and tight and it's not coming out of that wire nut. That's going to be really important. And when you tuck your wires in here, just be real careful too, because this is an opportunity. There's some slightly sharp edges here. There's opportunity for these wires to get scraped up. And if you get scraped up, you could have a short to ground, and that's going to be a problem throwing your circuit breaker. So just be real careful. Make sure you put the wires in here in such a way that they're not going to get damaged while the fan's in operation. All right, so once that's done, we'll go ahead and go to the next step. Okay, the next step in this process is to get the trim cover installed on the fan housing. You can see that there's actually, looks like there's 4 bolts that install in the bracket up top. So we're going to pull those bolts and the housing out. So the hardware is in a hardware bag with a black dot on it. So we'll get that out, get those installed. And then also, I'm gonna go ahead and get the fan blades installed. So earlier we skipped the step because it's a pretty easy process of just installing all these bushings. So what we have to do is go back and get the fan blades and get the fan blade holders, I guess you'd call them, and get those installed in the fan motor as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of this process and come back and show you what the finished product looks like once that's done. So after I worked on the process of putting in these grommets, I figured first I skipped over it, but it might be helpful to some people if I show you what I did to put them in there. Maybe it'll help you. But basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the grommet and I'm pinching it and kind of making it flat like this. And then once you make it flat, let me change hands to show it this way. Pinch it and make it flat, and then kind of dig it down inside one part of the hole, and then push it in as far as you can. So it'll kind of one end will be stuck up. Then you want to get an instrument like a flat blade screwdriver or something like that, and very carefully take your screwdriver and stick it up in that top area that's sticking up, like I did like what I was showing before. Kind of push it down and then push it through the hole. Okay. Now you'll see it'll partially come through the hole, so you just got to look and see where you got to push it through. But just be real careful, get it through there. Now on the other side, what I've been able to do is just take your finger and thumbnail, kind of grab onto the part that's pulled through already, and just work your finger around it. And then when you work your finger around it, you'll get the whole grommet through, and that's how you do it. So hopefully that's helpful in case you're struggling getting the grommets in these fan blades. All right, so here are all the fan blades with the fan blade holders installed. So just put your screws through to get those tightened up real tight. Because they're rubber grommets, you can actually have to bear down on them a little bit, but don't get them too tight because it's just, you know, thin metal that you're screwing into here. You don't want to strip it out. So now that these are all put together, we're going to put them up on the fan, and I installed them so that the wood grain side will be showing. You can, like I said before, you can install them where this dark black side is showing, but we're going to install them on the wood grain side showing. So that's the next step. We're going to get these things installed on the fan motor. All right, so here's the fan motor with one of these blade assemblies installed. Now what I'm going to do, you can see the way it works is that these two are paired together and these two are paired together. What I'm going to do is go around the fan and install all these blades loosely so that everything is kind of is set where it's going to go, and then just make sure it's centered and it's even, and then go and tighten everything evenly. Again, I think this is helpful in order to make sure that the fan won't wobble when it's up here on the ceiling, which is you know, kind of an annoying thing to me. So I want to put all these fan blades in here first loosely, and then go through and tighten them kind of sequentially, kind of like you would a lug nut on a car or something like that, to make sure you got even spacing, you know, even torque, even pressure on this whole thing, so that you won't have any wobbling problems as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and install the blades, and then I'm going to tighten them up like I talked about, and kind of like a star pattern, and bring you back once that's all done. All right, so here are the fan blades installed in the fan motor, and I got the housing tightened up as well. So before, what I talked about was trying to crisscross, and what I found was it really wasn't quite doable. So what I did was make sure that these gaps here were as close as I could, and kind of pulled the blades out to the edge, and then tighten them up individually. Just making sure that the gaps are even, so that hopefully it's balanced well, so there's no wobbling problems once we start it up. Okay, so that piece is done. Now we got to install the light fixture and finish the project. All right, so according to instructions, the next step is to install this light housing, switch housing. Again, these have the slotted screws in here, so you want to pick 2 screws and put them in there, screw them in most of the way, but not all the way. And then you can put the housing in place and put the 3rd screw in there and tighten everything up. So we're going to install this, what they call a switch housing. And this is the 3-line hardware bag, has these screws. And once that's installed, then we're going to grab the light fixture itself, make our plug connection, there. Line your plug up, make a connection, and then we're going to get that installed with the other screws from the same bag and finalize that. All right, so here's the switch housing installed. Actually ran into some problems with this. Just wanted to show this intermediate step so you can see what this looks like. This screw right here, or this hole right here, wasn't tapped properly. So I actually had to go down to the workshop and get a tap and tap this hole in order to get this screw to go in, because I could not get it to go in. So evidently at the factory they didn't drill and tap it properly. But on my application, this one is a 6x32 tap. So I took a 632 tap and cleaned that up and got this installed. So the next step is I'm gonna go ahead and get that light fixture installed on here. You see the light fixture, you've got 3 holes on the side here. You see those? So we're gonna pull the light fixture up here, make our connection, line up the color and the letter schemes here. And you can also see by the clasp. Line that up, get that connected, install the screws, and then the light fixture will be installed. All right, so there it is with the light fixture installed. Now on this one, you got the same kind of situation where 2 of these holes have a slot in them. So you want to just put 2 of the screws into the housing, the switch housing that you put up there earlier, and then put the fixture up there and turn it, lock it in place. Then tighten those up, and you can put in the other screw here on the side right there. Okay, so now the only step left to do, we're going to loosen up these thumb screws, and we're going to get the bulbs installed, then install the globes, and then we'll put the pull chains on here on the end, the correct one for the fan and the one for the light, and then we're going to fire it up, test it out. Hopefully everything's good. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now and put all those things on there and get ready for testing it. All right, so there we go. There's the final product. Fan's installed, it's on high, it's working well, lights are working, everything works with a switch. It's on with a switch, just like we want it. So once you get the globes installed and the lamps installed, you're done. Project is done. So I gotta put the pull chains on here. I hadn't put those on yet, but I'll get those pull chains put on there. But that's it. That's the project. All right, so that's it. That's the project. So hopefully through the process of installing and me going through it with you step by step, learned a few things. Maybe you feel a little bit more confident about making your own installation. I hope it helps you some. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Give me an idea of other projects around the house or automobile projects or things like that that you'd like to see. We could probably try to make some of those happen. A lot of these projects come about as far as things that I need to do around my house or family, friends' houses and things like that. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful for you, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.